Ding dong YouTube, welcome back to the channel. The Jobless Coder here, and today I'm rather irate. So you better buckle up because it's time for another rant, and I'm looking at you, EA Games. Now, if you clicked onto this video based on the title, I'm going to assume that you're probably a gamer, in which case you might be expecting this video to cover various topics about certain, let's say, practices that the company known as Electronic Arts actually indulges in. Things such as predatory loot box systems, pay-to-play systems that essentially break all functionality of the gameplay, releasing AAA titles that are not even a half, maybe even a quarter finished, only so that they can patch it all later. But no, actually, this video has to deal specifically with the jobs and the business side of the company. Now, if you're not a software developer, or perhaps you're not a software developer who's actually looked into getting a job at EA Games, when it comes to the company, I would say within the gaming community, it's probably known as one of the worst gaming companies of all time. From everything that I've heard over the several years that I've been playing games and whatnot, people just don't like the company for a variety of reasons, such as the ones that I listed before. And they just have this, it seems as though they don't really care a lot about their users that actually buy the software and play the games. Well, it's not a whole lot different from what I found when it comes to the actual business side of EA Games and, say, for example, working there as a job. Now, if you've seen my last video, you will have known that tomorrow, being Friday, or I guess it'll be today whenever I get the video out, I'm actually scheduled, or at least I was scheduled, to go for an interview for EA Games. And as it stands, this is a company that I've been trying to get into now for the past 3 years of my life. I've sent them over 40 different applications, and they've all been rejected, every single one of them. They wouldn't even bother to interview me. And when I basically stopped trying and gave up, that's when they reached out to me. And so I'll show you just right now. 3 weeks ago, I received an email from a talent coordinator at EA Games, and this was following a phone interview that she conducted with me. She said that she found my resume, she reached out to me, we did a phone interview, she thought that I had the skills necessary for a position at the company as a technical artist, and so she decided to set up an on-site interview for Friday, September 13th, and she basically told me that the hiring staff or whatever at the time wasn't going to be in until the beginning of September anyways, and if I got the job, it wouldn't start till October. So I've been waiting on this for 3 weeks now, and then just yesterday I got this email from some guy known as Brandon. And I'm going to assume that this is probably one of the people who would have been on my interview panel. I've been in communication now with 3 representatives of the company. The first person who reached out to me, her colleague who set up the actual interview times, and this person known as Brandon, who basically said, blah, 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 my name is Brandon, work at EA. He says, we originally scheduled your interview for this Friday, but unfortunately we'll need to cancel the interview. It says, I recently had an opportunity to sit down with the hiring team, and the decision was made to go in a different direction with the role. I apologize that I cannot share specific feedback, and I know that this isn't the update you were hoping, so I apologize for that. So, from the sounds of it, the role that they were going to interview me for is basically dissolved. The job doesn't exist anymore. They basically just had some meeting and somebody in the executive class of the company decided this role just doesn't need to exist, and therefore all interviews are canceled. And look, I get it. This type of stuff happens in business all the time. Job opportunities come in, they go out, you may be called in for an interview, it may be canceled before it happens, and I actually made a previous video about Lionbridge. It's actually one of my most popular videos on the channel with like over 3,000 views. I don't know what makes that particular video so special, but in the video I go on a rant about how the company called Lionbridge pulled the exact same stunt on me that EA has now gone and done. And a lot of the comments in the comment section are basically saying things like, oh, well, the company doesn't owe you anything, and so what if they scheduled an interview and then they canceled it on you later? But I think a lot of people are missing the point that I was trying to make with that video. And the point is that it's not necessarily about me or the fact that the job interview is canceled and now I'm not going to get an opportunity to go in and potentially work for this company. It comes down to integrity and reliability. Consider this scenario, for instance. You're working at some software company and your boss comes to you and he says, "Hey Billy, I've noticed that you've been working really hard lately. You've actually improved our productivity by 30% in the last 6 months that you've been here. And so I'm actually going to raise your salary." And your boss decides to raise your salary from $60,000 up to $70,000. He gives you a $10,000 increase. Now, I know these numbers are probably blown out of proportion from what would actually happen, but I'm just giving it as an example. So you go home to your wife or your husband and you say, "Hey, look, we have all of this extra money now coming in as a result of my boss giving me a raise." And so some of that you're probably going to save, and then you're also going to go out and buy a brand new TV because, oh, well, you have this extra cash flowing. I mean, let's be realistic here. Most people are going to go out and buy that brand new TV or new game system or whatever else they want. I mean, I find that there's very little people who would have the willpower to take all of that $10,000 increase and put it into savings. Because, I mean, like I said, you're going to go out and buy something. So you go and you buy this TV, and then your boss comes to you a week later after you've already made the purchase, and he says, "Oh, whoops, I made a mistake. Actually, the company's not doing that great, and I'm have to cut everybody's wages back." So not only does he decrease you back to $60,000, but he actually decreases it to $55,000. So you take a $15,000 loss. Now, that's what happens in business and the companies. If they don't have the money, they need to make cuts. And sometimes it's the loss of the job entirely. Sometimes they may take your wage or your salary and they just cut it back. There's nothing that can be done about that. However, what does that say about the integrity of your boss? Well, he came to you and he gave you a raise, and then a week later he retracts that and says, "Oh, well, actually, I'm going to decrease your salary." Well, sure, it may be out of your control, it may be out of his control, but that basically says that you can't trust your boss anymore. He has zero integrity. And so now what happens the next time when your boss comes to you and he says, "Oh, the company is actually doing good now and I'm going to increase your salary"? You're going to say, "Yeah, sure, and pigs can fly, because that's what happened last time. You increased my salary, I went and I bought the TV, and then you go and screw me over like that." In my personal case, I bought the TV before I got screwed over. And my boss was like, "Oh, well, the company's not doing that great, and so nobody's getting paid at all. No pay at all." And so it's like, "Oh, you can't do that. You can't just not pay your employees. Just watch me." And so I'm like, "Well, that's illegal." Well, that's what I thought. But that's beside the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make comes down to reliability and integrity. And if a company as large as EA can't get their shit together long enough to give me at least a week's notice would be nice. And I told them, I actually phoned up Brandon, and I phoned the other 3 people too, and I basically left messages on their voice box to tell them how disrespected I feel that they would go and waste my time like this. And I'm actually going to play one of the phone calls right now.
Sorry, Brandon Ronnie is not available. Record your message at the tone. When you are finished, hang up or press pound for more options.
Hello, Brandon. This is Evan. You sent me an email earlier to inform me that my interview on Friday with EA Games had been canceled. I was just calling back to let you know how extremely disappointed I am that it has to have come to this. I also wanted to tell you exactly how disrespected I feel that this has happened. Now, you have to understand, and I understand as well, that things like this happen all the time. Jobs get taken before interviews happen. I'm sure that there's nothing that you could have done that could have changed any of this. There's certainly nothing that I could have done that could have changed any of this. But from my perspective, as it stands, I am working for an ice cream truck company at the moment, and I basically told my boss that I would need the entire week off here to prepare for this interview so that I could do laundry, so that I would have nice clothes for the interview, so that I could do some research into exactly what this job entails, everything that it involves. I could freshen up on my programming skills, do some practice whiteboard problems so that I could do 110% when it comes to the interview on Friday. And then to be notified less than 2 days before the time of the interview that it's suddenly canceled, I think that is extremely disrespectful. Not only to myself, but to my boss and my superior as well, who has had to either cover for me, he was unable to, and so now my boss had several events that she had to cancel as a result of me not being able to work for her ice cream truck company. That is a loss of several $100s to herself. And I told her that this was non-negotiable. I was taking this time off. And as a result of that, she's now lost all of this profit that she could have got had I not taken this time off for you and your company that has now gone and screwed me over. I believe that if you needed to let me know ahead of time that this interview was not happening, a week's notice would have been nice. It would have been nice to know a little bit sooner so that way I wouldn't take this time off, thus screwing my boss. And I just wanted to let you know how extremely disrespected that I feel. And to tell you the truth, it's making me question whether I even want to work at your company if they're going to treat their potential future employees in this manner. Now, that being said, I'm completely open to hear any future negotiations for a potential job. I will say that I've been trying to get into this company for the past 3 years. I've sent over 40 applications and been rejected for an interview for every single one of them. And then when I stop even caring and even trying, that's when you and your company reach out to me, or at least one of the other members of your company reaches out to me and schedules this interview. So yes, I had stopped caring, but I was also extremely overjoyous and excited to be joining or potentially joining your team should the interview go good. However, I don't know anymore because of the way that you have disrespected me like this. And like I said, I'm willing to hear future open opportunities for other positions. You have my resume on file. You know the skills that I have. But you have to understand that I'm an extremely busy person. I'm building side apps and websites. I'm working this ice cream truck company. I don't need to have my time wasted in the manner that you have now wasted it. And so, like I said, if you want to reach out to me with another position, I'm open to hearing it. Otherwise, I think I'll just tell all of my developer friends and the network that I have that this is the level of treatment they should expect to receive when applying for a job at EA Games. Thank you for your time, Brandon. Good day. So that was the message that I left on Brandon's voicemail box. And I believe that I was as respectful as I can, as well as being assertive and demanding in letting him know that he had disrespected me and that the company itself had disrespected me. Now, I don't know. It's possible that I went too far. Maybe I was too aggressive. If you think that I was, then feel free to leave a comment below or let me know whether or not you thought that was a professional way to handle this. But I phoned two other people, the two other people that I was previously coordinating with for this job. And I left a message on one of the voice box, and then the final person I called actually picked up the phone. She was still at work. And so I basically ran through the same spiel with her and explained to her about my boss and the fact that I took this time off, this entire week off, to prepare for this interview because I wanted to do very good on the interview. And what she basically said to me was that, oh, well, our company or whatever can't be held responsible for your decision to take time off that screwed your boss over. And I was like, no. You listen here. That's not how it works. These interviews do not exist in a vacuum. I have to take the time off to meet your schedule. When you schedule me for some arbitrary date 3 weeks into the future at some arbitrary time based on your guys' schedule, my entire life has to conform to the box that you've put me in. And so it's my responsibility to ensure that I take this time off and that I prepare for it. And if it screws my current boss over, there's not a lot that I can do about it. But it's your responsibility, EA, as much as it is mine. Because, like I said, this does not exist in a vacuum. I have to take time out of my life and everything else that happens in my life to come in for your company, for your position, because you reached out to me. I did not take this week off so that I could sit around with my thumb up my ass watching cartoons. This is not a free week off where I sit and play video games all day long. This is a productivity week. This is a productivity week where I am doing things in my time that I otherwise didn't have to do. I didn't have to research anything about talent or technical artist. I didn't have to know what it was. I didn't have to spend all the time practicing problems and freshening up on coding skills, if not for you reaching out to me. And just like Lionbridge, who previously screwed me over by setting up an interview and only canceling it a few days before it actually took place, it's actually a whole lot worse when it comes to EA Games, because the company Lionbridge, as it stands, is a remote working online whatever thing. I was supposed to be an online test. I don't have to take time out of my day or my week to prepare for something like that. But when it's an on-site interview where I'm expected to dress appropriately and come in 5 or 10 minutes early and have all of the stuff already prepared for the interview, it's a lot more strenuous of a task on my part to actually adhere to that. And so, because it's an on-site interview, there's a lot more nuance that goes into that. And I expect in making this video, I'm going to receive a lot of the same comments I got on the Lionbridge video, which was, like I stated earlier, oh, they don't owe you anything, it's not their job to whatever conform to your schedule, you have to do all this X, Y, and Z to please them. But at the same time, I think people are missing the point here where I'm getting upset. I'm not upset because I didn't get the job. I'm upset because I didn't get the opportunity to apply for the job or to interview for the job. Think of it this way. This is the best analogy that I can come up with at the moment. If you're an Olympian or you're an athlete that wants to go to the Olympics and you're training really hard and you're going to all of the smaller events and you're winning here and eventually somebody comes up to you and they say, hey, we noticed your talent, we noticed that you've won all these awards or whatever, and they invite you to participate in the Olympics. You're filled with joy. You are overjoyous. You're going to the Olympics. You're going to get a chance to compete for the gold medal and represent your country. And then, a month before the Olympics, they turn around, for no fault of your own, not because you were taking drugs or any other thing like that, they just drop it and say, oh, well, you're actually banned from the Olympics, you can't come and compete. And then they don't give you any reason why either. Now, in the case of EA Games, they basically told me that the role doesn't exist. Lionbridge didn't give me anything. They gave me zero. They said, oh, we just canceled the interview because reasons. So, how hurt are you going to feel? I mean, I'm not upset because I didn't win the gold medal, because I didn't get the job. I'm upset because I wasn't even allowed to compete at the Olympics. Or in this case, as the metaphor entails, go to the interview. I think that's where the real problem lies in all of this. And I actually want to give a little bit of backstory and context to why I feel this way. Because if it wasn't for the fact that EA Games would have been the second company in 9 months to offer me an interview, and now they're the third company to retract an interview prematurely before it's actually taken place, then maybe I wouldn't be so irate. But I am over here right now on the company profile on LinkedIn. And as it stands, my university, the University of Lethbridge in southern Alberta, actually has several people working at the company. It says here, 15 people from your school, being the University of Lethbridge, were hired here. And it's actually a lot more, because this is just the people on LinkedIn who have actually reported that they work at EA Games. I'm sure that there's other people that went to the school who don't use LinkedIn, or maybe they use LinkedIn and they just haven't updated their job profile, in which case it won't show up. But at least 15 people from my school work here. Now the thing is, when it comes to the University of Lethbridge, I mentioned I've applied over 40 times in the past 3 years. When it comes to the University of Lethbridge, they have something known as the co-op program, the cooperative education. Now, if you've never gone to university or you're not familiar with what that means, it essentially is best analogous to internship, but for high-level programs like computer science or whatever else you're studying at university. So the idea is, through the co-op program, you can continue your education while working at a company. And as it stands, the university actually has a specific program set up every single year with EA Games. And here, on their main page, they actually list it right there, EA Games, as one of the companies that they have set up with. Now, as it stands, to get a job with EA Games while at the university, you have to wait till your 3rd year of the program. And that's exactly what I did. When I was in my 3rd year of studying computer science, I applied for several positions, actually. I think there was 8 or 9 different positions for the Frostbite team, for the FIFA team, for several different positions. Some of them were testers, some of them were developers, and I applied to basically everything. And I figured I had a pretty good shot because I'm studying computer science at a university that actually has coordination with the campus of EA. And not only that, but I'm getting good marks in school, and I also have my Pocketbug Games website that I've set up before, where I did a few mobile applications. So I'm applying to a games company, I have previous game experience, I have good marks, and I'm at a university that has a system set up with EA Games. I figured all of these things would go in part to actually landing a job with the company. I got rejected from every single one of those interviews. I didn't get to interview with anybody at the company. And when I talked to my job coordinator over at the University of Lethbridge, she told me that nobody from the entire school that year was even offered an interview with the company. And you want to know what that told me? It told me that I was at the wrong school. Because if the university doesn't have the manpower to push their students onto the company to elevate them and to promote their students so that the company will actually pay attention to them, then the school's doing something wrong. But I figured, well, I guess I could apply to the company outside of the co-op program and just see if I could get a job there. So I tried even more positions, and I applied for more positions. And several months later, I applied for more positions. And for the last 3 years, it's been on and off. Every couple months, I'll send in more applications. I've applied for junior positions, senior positions, everything in between. Front end, back end, QA, mobile development, you name it, I've applied to everything. And like I said in the previous video from just the other day, I gave up trying. I didn't even care. I don't want a job at this company anyways. But since they reached out to me, I figured, what the heck, why not give it a shot, because there's nothing I can lose. And apparently I have lost something, which is the time and the energy and the effort that I've taken out of this week for them to screw me over. But the bullshit doesn't stop there, because I actually wanted to take a look into some of the jobs that EA offers and exactly what they pay. As I mentioned in the previous video, EA is known as a pretty lousy company, the quote-unquote McDonald's of the tech industry, because they actually pay some of their developers McDonald's level wages. So over here, on Glassdoor, which is a pretty good site for reviewing different companies, I just went to the salaries section of Electronic Arts, and they have a lot of the other arts stuff that they show there. And so I wanted to see what some of the lowest salaries were at the company, so I select this filter, lowest to highest. I think I'm on page 2 or 3 at the moment now, so it's a little bit higher. Yeah, I'm on page 2. So you can see some of them are paid monthly, some of them are contractors, QA testers. This one's $32,000 a year. So I selected one at random here, which is a web developer. This role is a web developer as an hourly contractor, and it pays $18 to $20 an hour. Now, I mean, that's not that bad. It's definitely more than minimum wage. I'm sure that maybe if you got like a higher level position, like a store manager at McDonald's, you could probably make the same. And then for a front-end developer as a contractor, it says $57,000 to $62,000 per year. This is the biggest problem with EA Games, is that all of their company employees are contractors. They're all independent contractors that EA has hired. Now, the problem with being contractors is that you have to continue to reapply for a job. And it's a lot like being a teacher, where you have to continue to reapply at the school every single year. Now, that being said, most people will probably get accepted, but they have full rights to just screw you over and not renew your contract. Now, I will say that it's a little better than an independent contractor, which is what I was at my old job, although I wasn't necessarily disclosed that. I believed I was an employee. They do offer benefits. This is an actual benefit sheet from EA Games that I was sent a picture. I won't call him a friend. I'll say I have a connection who works there. I know someone who works within the company who was, I guess the best way to put it is, he's basically an enemy of mine at this point. And I don't use that word that lightly either. I define an enemy as somebody who's actively working against me to try and stop or try and hinder any progress that I make. And I thought this person cared about me. I thought he wanted to help me get a job at his company. But now he basically is like, well, he's put me down several times. He doesn't think I have the skills to do anything, let alone anything at his company. He devalues me in several different ways, and he's told me if I was to get a job at the company without his help, because he won't give me his help anymore, then I'm to have no communication with him. I'm not to let anybody there know that I even know him. And so this is not a friend. This is somebody who's basically an enemy. But when I was in communication with him, he sent me this sheet here. And I don't really know enough about companies or because I haven't worked at a company that gives benefits. So I don't know enough about it to judge this. But you can judge it for yourself, and based on that, I don't know. I can't say if it's good or bad or indifferent. So heading back on over to Glassdoor, I show you this web developer as an hourly wage, $18 to $20 an hour. Well, I actually wanted to look into what it would be like working at McDonald's on Glassdoor. Not as an employee who flips burgers, but as a software developer, because they have those too. And as a software developer, as an hourly intern, McDonald's actually pays higher on average, $20 to $22 an hour, where EA doesn't even pay that. So the problem with this is that working for McDonald's has that stigma about it that you get paid low. EA also has that stigma about it. But if you're a software developer, you should be making some pretty good money. You shouldn't be being paid like just above minimum wage or just barely enough to cover rent, especially in a city as expensive as Vancouver. So my question is, would I even want a job there anyways? Well, for the position that I was applying to as a technical artist, it would have paid on average $80,000 to $85,000 per year as a salary. That's the national average, contrasted to some of the other positions at EA, such as this senior technical, I got that stuck in my head, senior tester, QA tester. If you're a QA person, then you're basically at the bottom of the totem pole in terms of software. That's the lowest of the lowest of the low of jobs. However, if you're a senior QA tester, I can't believe this. They pay $30,000 a year? That's ridiculous, because if you're senior anything, you should be being paid at least 50,000 Canadian dollars and up. If you're senior at a company, I don't care what the job title is, you need to be paid accordingly. According to Google, the number of work days in a year is 260. So if you go $30,000 a year, divided by 260, divided by, I'm going to guess, 8-hour work days on average, that equates to roughly $14.50 an hour. Now, the minimum wage in BC, last I checked, was $12.50. So working for $30,000 an hour as a software developer for EA means you're making just $2 above the minimum wage on average per hour. And that doesn't include the fact that they're probably going to ask overtime. And they probably won't pay for it either because you're on salary. And you're probably going to have to deal with a lot more stress when it comes to the amount of the stuff that work actually entails. It's probably going to be a lot more stressful. And they pay you $2 more than minimum wage. You should be making at least $25 to $35 or more dollars an hour doing software development, especially for a billion-dollar company as big as EA Games, and one that provides benefits and stuff too. Now, I'm going to assume that all of these numbers on Glassdoor are reported before taxes, which means you're actually making a whole lot less than you thought you did. And regarding the benefits, I actually know this because of my contact in EA Games. One of the big perks that I hear all the time about people talking about EA Games and their campus, it's a 500,000 square foot billion-dollar campus in North Burnaby. It's impressive. They have a world-class gym there. They have food, whatever restaurants. They have got lounges and game zoom and you name it, they have at EA Games. I've never seen the campus and I probably never will get to see it. But the thing is that a lot of tech companies, they have gyms, or at least some of the bigger ones have gyms. They can afford it. And people are like, oh yeah, I want to get this job because it has this gym and so I don't have to pay for my gym membership anymore. EA Games charges their employees $30 a month for their gym membership. That's ridiculous. When you can get like $20 a month gym membership at some of the cheaper gyms, or if you go to like Anytime Fitness where I am, you can get like $50 a month, and it gives you access to any one of their facilities on Earth, 24-hour access. Why would I pay $30 a month for the gym at EA Games when I'm working there? If I'm an employee, or I was an employee at EA Games, I expect to have access to their facilities. Now, yeah, you got restaurants, sure, buy your own food, whatever. I don't expect them to cater to you and provide all of your meals. Some companies will. Some companies have like free breakfast policy or free supper policy, or every other day they bring in food. For whatever reason, but it's not necessarily an expectation. But if you've got a facility like a gym, then why not just give it to everyone for free? Why do they have to charge their employees on top of what they're making to use the gym? So I don't even know if it's opt-out, to be honest. It's possible that that's just automatically taken from your paycheck and there's nothing you can do about it. What if you just don't want to go to the gym, or you don't want to pay to go to the gym? I don't know. It's possible that you can opt out of that, but I'll never know because I guess I'm not getting a job at the EA. I guess the last thing I wanted to cover in this video was the actual process of applying there. So I'll show you all over on the page here. They've got their career section, and it's all flashy and it's done up to look professionally. They're going to show you pictures of the teams collaborating, very nice. Like, I'm sure it's not that way every day, whatever. So here's the Vancouver office. And you can see they often also promote their giant soccer field. I don't know if that's also paid or that's part of the gym membership. I'm going to assume it is. And then they've got all of their roles here. And so you can see they have all of these: temporary, full-time, technical art, FIFA team, NHL team, DevOps, senior lead, whatever. Most of these are all on contract. So like I said, you get there for a month, or maybe you work there for 3 months, 6 months, a year. But if they just want to terminate your contract for whatever reason, well, now you're out of a job. Congratulations. So when you decide on what you want to do, you click apply now. It brings you over to the page of the specific role. It has everything that it entails here. And then you just click on apply. You'd have to log into an account. And then in my account here, you can see it actually keeps a record of all of the jobs I've applied. So like this April 10th, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 jobs I applied to then. On the 30th, I just did this one today just to log in, March, and it appears they don't even keep a record before then, because there's at least 20 or 30 different jobs going back to 2017 when I first started applying through the university. And of course they're all on the university website and everything. I have to log in to show you that. I've also been contacted by 6 or 7 different independent recruiting agents who all work for different agencies. And then what happens at a company like EA Games, one of the big companies, is they go and they hire these people to go and hire more people. Their job is to look for people. They're like a talent scout. And so I'll get a phone call up sometimes. They'll be like, "Oh, hey Evan, how you doing? I want to interview you for this position we have." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm doing great. This sounds awesome." And they ask all these questions about my skills, and then we get to the end of it and they're like, "Oh, well, I'm going to tell you that the company that I'm representing is EA Games." At which point I'm just like, "Oh, well, okay, cool." Because I know that it's just going to be dropped at that point, and it always is. I mean, that's the last I hear of them. Nobody reaches out to me in the future. I'm never contacted back. And so every time it's like, "Oh, it's EA Games." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." Yeah, I know I'm not going to get a job there anyways. But other than that, I guess that's the end of this rant. I know it's gone on quite a while, but I don't know. EA, you need to get your shit together. If you can't inform me more than a week before the interview that it's canceled, then I expect to come in for an interview. And you know, I thought about coming in tomorrow anyways and just plopping my butt down and saying I'm not moving until somebody talks to me. But I don't think it would accomplish much, to be honest, because like I said, I don't even know if I want to work there anymore. And I told this woman on the phone when I was talking to her that I might just tell all my developer friends and my network this is the type of treatment they should expect to receive when dealing with EA games. And she's like, oh, well, I don't think so. And then that was basically it. She basically hung up. And all I could think of was, wow, you're just such a company puppet at this point. You've drank the Kool-Aid, and now you're just defending the company because you feel obligated to. And I'm sure that they've brainwashed you into thinking that it's great. But when you're on the outside looking in, it's actually pretty terrible. So, other than that, thank you for watching the video. Leave a comment below. Feel free to subscribe. And that's the end of this video. Bye.